Hey folks, today I want to talk to you about Godsforge, which is a cool little dice and card engine building game. And instead of me just giving you an overview or a review or first impressions of this game, I thought it might be nice to just show you a little bit how it plays because it is quite simple. It's a combat game, and although it plays up to 4, I've only played it with 2. And you've got this kind of circular shared health tracker, and the idea is to take your opponent down to 0 points and be the last player standing. And what you do in the game is you start off with 4 cards in your hand, and you're going to be rolling these dice to essentially forge those cards. What that means is if you get the right numbers on your dice, you get to play a card. You can only forge 1 card per turn, but depending on the card, that card will stay in your tableau, in your sort of card engine here, and you'll be able to benefit from it in future turns. But we'll come back to that in just a moment. So what are we doing in this game? Pretty simple. Upkeep phase, which is, the first phase. You skip it obviously on the first turn. You draw up to 2 cards and maintain a hand size of 4. Any ongoing effects take place at the upkeep stage. You've then got the main dice rolling, and you roll the 4 dice. You can re-roll a single die twice or 2 dice once. They've done something interesting with this game whereby they have sort of thematic names for each of the different dice values. So I'll just show you here in the rule book so you can get a flavor of it. So fire is 2, air is 3, water is 4, earth is 5, Feywood 9, bloodstone, mithril, light, shadow, crystal, and godstone. This is missing 1, which is Ethereum, and it's sort of a wild value, so you can switch 1 to any value. It's also missing Veilstones, which is 6 here. And Veilstones essentially double up as they give you these, when you roll a 6, you get one of these pretty little golden nuggets here, which you can use for modifying your dice rolls, but also for paying for certain cards later on. That may be paying to play a card initially into your tableau or activating a card in your tableau later on. And once that's done and you've rolled and you've selected a card that you're going to play that turn, you then reveal and then you conduct an attack and try to, beat each other up as much as possible. So let's just do a very quick turn here. I'm going to start off as a red player and I'm going to roll the dice. So that one went a little bit rogue, but anyway, so this is pretty cool. I've got 2 1s, and 1s are wild Ethereum, so I can actually change this to any value I want, a 5 and a 3. So let's start looking at these cards in a little bit more depth. So when you see a card that has a white border on the title, that means it's a creation. Let's just see, I might actually have, no, I don't have any of the, I thought I had a spell, but a spell basically looks the same, except for it has a golden border around the title. So anyway, let's look at some of these cards I've got. So Volcanic Sphinx, this is quite a nice one. I get to increase my hand size by 1, it's usually limited to 4, and I get to attack for 3 value or 6 if I've played a spell in that particular round. So remember, this card, if I play it and I activate it, I forge it successfully, it's going to stay in my tableau for future turns. So although I can only forge 1 card per turn, in future turns, if I forge a spell, this is going to be souped up. So this is quite a nice one. I don't really have a 2, but I can shift these 2 1s to pretty much any value I like and achieve the values that I need to forge this card pretty easily. But let's just look at our other options. Emerald Treant. I think it's how you say that, but anyway, I need a 4 and I need a 9+. Well, if the dice only goes up to 6, how do I forge a 9? Very simply, I add cards together. So if I had a 6 and a 3, I could make a 9. I can add multiple dice together to create the value. So I just need a 9 or more and a single 4 to forge this particular card. And this one does have a nice attack value. It also lets me pay Veilstones, the old gold nuggets there, for defense, the blue's defense. And each upkeep phase, so when I'm drawing my cards, I get an additional Veilstone. So that's kind of like a little Veilstone engine generator there for me. So that's quite nice. Another Veilstone generator here, a Veilstone beacon. I will gain 3 Veilstones when I play this, which is pretty cool. But I'll also gain a Veilstone each upkeep phase. and it's a 3, 4, and 5. I've got a 3 and a 5. I could switch one of these to a 4 quite easily and do that. But let's see the final card in my hand, which, and can I just say as an aside point, I really love the art in this game. You know, artwork oftentimes makes the game and sets the theme, and this may not be a style for everybody, but for me, I really enjoyed it. Wall of Stone here. This is kind of a challenging one because you need a 5, 5, and a 5. Now, I've got one 5, and I could easily switch these two other ones to a 5, but what does it actually do here? So it gives me 2 defense, so that will nullify 2 points of damage that my opponent might do to me. I can also pay a Veilstone for an additional 2 protection. So actually, these aren't limited. So if I've got, you know, a few of these golden nuggets hanging around, I can pay a bunch of them to boost my defense. Or I can sacrifice, essentially trash the card for 10 defense. It's a bit of a tough choice, to be honest with you folks, but I think I'm going to go for the Volcanic Sphinx, just because it increases my hand size by 1, and it's potentially got the ability to really power up here in the future. So how do I achieve that? So I will switch one of these 1s to a 2. So I've got my 2 covered. And then I essentially can switch one of my 1s here to whatever. I can do it, technically I could do it as a 2. So we have precisely 10 there, or I could switch it to, whatever really. I could switch it to a 3. I could switch it to a 5. I could actually even switch it to a 6 to gain a Veilstone. But I think let's just keep it simple and keep it precise and switch it to a 2. I believe if I switched it to a 6, I wouldn't also be able to claim the Veilstone and use it to add up to this plus 10 value. So that's why I'm not doing that. So I will leave it as a 2, and I make the value requirement here for a 10 plus. So I'm going to just conceal that for now from my opponent. So let's look at what the blue player is going to work with here. First things first, let's roll them bones. And this is pretty interesting. Now, we don't have the same flexibility as the red player because we don't have any 1s, but we do have 6s, which we can use to collect some of those delicious golden nuggets. Now let's look at the cards. Malachite Manticore. Pretty powerful card here, but also very hard to achieve. I don't think I can even actually achieve this now because it needs a 3 in a row, and I don't have that. So I'll put that to one side. We can't actually forge that guy. 3, 5, and 10 plus. I don't have a 3. I'm not going to be able to achieve a 3. So unfortunately, I cannot forge that either. 2 odd. Well, I do have 2 5s, so those are 2 odd, so that's pretty nice. That may be one to consider. 9 plus, 2 even. And now I can achieve this, but I may want to use these 6s to collect Veilstones instead. So I think what I'm going to do is try and maximize my roll. Keep in mind that I can actually re-roll these if I want to, but I don't really want to take the risk. I can pay these 2 5s as the 2 odd value for this Veilstone Thief, and I can use the 2 6s to gain some of those golden nuggets. And let's actually look at what this Veilstone Thief does. So after the reveal, gain 4 Veilstones or take up to 4 Veilstones from any player. So that's pretty mean, potentially. I doubt my opponent is going to have 4 Veilstones, but let's see what they play, I suppose. But this kind of sets me off in a Veilstone heavy strategy from the beginning, which may not be a bad thing. So let's pay those. I'll conceal my card, and I'll take my 2 golden nuggets for my 6s and keep them over here. And we're going to go into the reveal stage now. I guess this happens simultaneously, so let's go to the red player here. Ooh, spooky. Volcanic Sphinx. That looks mean. And over here, we have the Veilstone Thief. And one thing just to keep in mind, I mentioned earlier the different types of cards. So this Volcanic Sphinx is a creation because it's got this white border on the title. The Veilstone Thief is a spell, and that can only be used once, whereas the Volcanic Sphinx will actually stay in this player's tableau as they play the game and move forward. So let's go through the effects of this sort of attack phase or reveal phase. So we've done the reveal phase now, and actually it's in this reveal phase because we see this nifty little icon there with the eye and the arrow. that we're going to gain for Veilstones. So we're going to do that straight away. Put those in our collection. Got a nice little collection of Veilstones now. And then we move to the attack phase. So this player does 3 damage to the blue player, so they go down to 27. And just as a note, depending on the number of players, the hit points start at a different level. I believe at 2 players, they start at 30 hit points each. I believe at 3 players is 25, and at 4 players is 20. So that's just something to keep in mind, that shifts, I guess, to make the game move a little bit more zippily along. So he's done his 3 damage. This card doesn't do anything else now, so we can kind of just, tap it to just say that we've used it, I suppose. And then on this side, well, I've used the Veilstone Thief to gain my 4 Veilstones, and now I do an attack of 4. So this takes the red opponent down to 26. And because this is a spell and it's a one-shot wonder here, I'm going to discard that. So that goes over here into the shared discard pile. And now what we would do is we would start the upkeep phase for the next turn. I retained the cards that I used, that I had in my hand previously, but I didn't use. And now because of this Volcanic Sphinx, I actually get to take 2 cards into my hand. So let's see what this is. A spell, pretty powerful spell actually. And I get to soup it up by paying more Veilstones to do additional damage. So that's a very powerful card. And I get to do 1 more. Apocalypse Titan. Again, love the art in this. 4 of a kind, which is pretty challenging, plus a Veilstone. So I don't think this particular player got the ideal cards for them. And I guess that's a little bit, down to the luck of the draw, which obviously with dice and blind drawing of cards, luck is going to be a factor in this game. Let's see what our blue player gets. They've got 3 cards in hand, so they just need to draw up to their hand limit of 4. They get 1, Winds of Fate. You may change the direction of everyone's attack this round. Announce now whether you're doing so, then draw 2 cards, discard 1, and play the other one for free. Okay, this is not as useful in a 2-player game, but anyway. Oh, one more thing. Keep in mind that you can actually discard up to 2 cards from your hand if you want to cycle through your deck a little bit and clean out some cards that aren't as useful to you. So that's a nice little touch. Again, there's a lot of luck in this game, but you do have some ways to mitigate that. So I think that gives you a flavor of how the game plays. I've quite enjoyed it. I think my only gripe is the box size. I think the box is a little bit big considering this game is essentially cards and dice, but I do like the fact that they've created this sort of little play board here that you can use, and I think it's going to make it easier if you're playing in a pub or a cafe to just keep things nicely organized. And the other thing for me is the artwork is really beautiful. So hopefully this video gave you a better idea of how this game plays and if it might be a game for you. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments, or you can find me on Twitter @GameMinimalist. In the meantime, enjoy your gaming.